All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the April 11th, 2023 regular board meeting. I'd like to announce that we're live streaming the meeting. The meetings of the Mechanicsburg Area School District Board of Directors are being recorded and live streamed for the purpose of transparency and increased public access. The live stream, along with the recordings from previous held meetings, can be found on the school board's YouTube channel. All would like to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll have a brief moment of silent meditation. Move on to roll call. Mr. Longwell.
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mr. Burkhardt?
Here.
Mr. Hartman?
Present.
Dr. Lebo?
Here.
Mrs. Maris?
Here.
Ms. Morgan?
Here.
Dr. Rhodes?
Present.
Mr. Sanker?
Here.
And Mr. Rupp.
Here. Endorsement of agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda, Mr. Longwell?
There were no additions or changes, Mr. Rupp, and the agenda will otherwise stand as written.
Reading of minutes of regular board meeting of March 14th, 2023. Any board members have any corrections or additions or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, Mr. Longwell, they'll be filed as printed. Move on to item 2, hearing of visitors. There are 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. As a reminder, public comment is limited to residents of the school district. At this time, we have reached the first opportunity for public comment. The opportunity is reserved for comments related to items that are listed on the agenda for a vote. The second opportunity for public comment will occur at the end of the meeting. The second opportunity is for items that are not on the agenda. Also, as a reminder that you have 3 minutes to speak and expect a reasonable level of decorum. If anybody has any public comment on items that are listed on the agenda for vote tonight, please come up to the podium and state your district name and address.
Robert Schaefer, 904 Peachtree Drive, Broward. I will not comment on the school board on the dress code as I did last time. I was impressed with your discussion of the dress code at the last meeting. I do want to say that, and I am more than impressed and intimidated even by Mr. Rupp's recall of events from 20-some years ago with regard to dress code. I did have a question on the. It's item 9, new business personnel, 9.02, adoption of PSBA's recommended salary ranges. I assume that's Pennsylvania School Board Association, is that correct? So there was no attachment given with that, and so if you do vote on that, I would appreciate it if you would explain, exactly what is being voted on and what implication that will have for the district.
We'll do that at that time. Thank you. Any other public comment for items that are on the agenda scheduled for a vote tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, reports and presentations. Superintendent of Schools report, Dr. Leidy.
Yes, good evening. There are 3 items under my report this evening, and we're going to start with a rather large group that we have waiting for us out in the hallway. Actually, several groups, if you will. As you know, each year we recognize individual athletes, student athletes, and teams that make it to the PIAA competition level. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to our athletic director, Mr. Panic.
All right. Thank you for having me. We're going to keep the other groups out in the hallway until we finish one by one, just to try
try to have some order. So I'm going to invite Lance and Coach Glumac up here. Lance Ginter is our PIAA qualifier for swimming. He is the first qualifier in 13 years, I believe, Coach Glumac. So think of all the tradition we have in athletics, and it's been 13 years since we've had a swimmer get to this point. So he competed at Bucknell probably about a month ago now. While at MASH, he broke 3 records in the pool. So when you think about our record board, there's 11 individual records for male and 11 individual records for female. 3 of them are relays. He's going to own 3 of the 8 individual records when he's leaving here this spring. So quite the accomplishment. They're in the 200 free, the 500 free, and the 200 IM. Does that sound right? Yep. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Lance and Coach Glumac if he has anything to say. But other than that, I'll turn it over.
Yeah, just it's been a joy to coach this young man over the last 4 years, and hopefully he's considering moving into college. He's teetering on that, but he's going to give back to the aquatic community. He's going to help coach, so we're looking forward to having him pass on his knowledge and skills to the younger swimmers.
Thanks, Lance. Next, we're going to invite the girls basketball team. They have sort of become a staple at this meeting here over the past few years. This is the 5th straight year that our girls basketball team has not only qualified but has won a game in competition at the PIAA level, which is a record here at our school. It is the 8th 20-win season that they accomplished this year, and this is after coming off a year where they went to the state semifinals last year. Clearly, Miss Eager had an injury, which obviously impacted the year, but they persevered through that, finished 3rd in the district, and made it to the Sweet 16 in state competition. Coach Brown, if you want to, Coach Early and Coach Brown, if you want to introduce.
Yeah. We have Anna Bagnelli, she is a junior. We have Avery McAllister, she is a junior. We have Lauren Lebo, she's a freshman. Grayson Nutt, she's a senior, and Jaden Eager, she's a senior.
So on behalf of Coach McAllister, myself, and Coach Early, first of all, Coach is coaching baseball, so he's not here, just as I wasn't here for field hockey when I was coaching them. So I'd just like to thank all of you for your support through the year, as well as Seth and the administration of the high school athletic department, which encompasses Sandy and our athletic training to keep them all healthy. Of course, we lost Jaden, not to athletic training, but something out of that control. It was a great season. I have to thank these girls and Katie behind myself for, as Seth already said, what a great season that it was. Even with the injury that we had, we prevailed. At any point in time, they stared at their competition and were very competitive at all times, which we're very proud of. And then in victory, they're very humble. I would love to coach this team forever. It was great being on the ride, and I'm sure they would say the same about their teammates and friends that they'll have for life because of the opportunities they have with sports. So, thank you.
All right, we have one more group. There's a few more of them than. Spring sports are going on today too, so not everybody's here that probably would like to be, but good turn. Come on up, Mr. Brubaker, if you just want to come down here, don't fall in behind. Gentlemen. All right, next group we have is boys basketball. So our boys team had 19 wins this year, which is the 6th most in school history. I'm not sure if you guys know that. They finished 4th in district play, won their first round of states out in Pittsburgh in dramatic fashion. It was our first state win in 6 years, only our 5th state win ever in boys history. So we've been playing for 50, 60 years, so it says a lot. So I'm going to introduce Coach Gaffey. I'll let him introduce the boys, and if he wants to say anything, he may do so. Coach Mike Gaffey.
Thanks, Seth. I'm just going to go right down the line and introduce everyone to you tonight. Thanks for having us, and thanks for taking a few minutes. We know how busy you guys are, and we appreciate it. I have my 3 seniors here, Seth Brubaker, Nathan Bardo, and Gabe Pinsker. If you could tonight when you go home, would you say a prayer for Gabe? He just passed the officials test and will be refereeing this summer. These guys are seniors. We have Elijah Bea, who's a sophomore, Liam Owens, sophomore, Josh Smith, sophomore, Landon McGee, sophomore, Chance Yanowski's a sophomore, Dan Mark is a sophomore, Justin Barr is a sophomore, and we have Landon Mark, who's a junior. All fantastic guys. We really appreciate you coming out to our games this year if you were able to make it. The support was great. And I know for me, my first year here, after meeting with Seth, Mr. Harris, and Dr. Lighty, you could tell that there's a true alignment in the Mechanicsburg School District all the way up through, which made it pretty easy for us to have the success that we did. So I'll leave you with one story tonight. It's a personal story, but I think it has something to do with Mechanicsburg and what you're doing here in your school district, because obviously it's touching. And when I met with Dr. Lighty before I left, he said that Mechanicsburg is a special place. And I found out this year, very early, well before the successes that these guys had brought to the community, how true it was. I was at basketball camp this summer. We were working with 4th through 7th graders. And we had 3 4th graders on the last day that their ride was not there right away. It was an awards ceremony, and there was a half-hour early dismissal. And there were 3 young guys, really neat kids. And our players were working the camp as counselors. So I was walking around doing little odds and ends, cleaning things up, getting ready to leave. It was the end of camp. And when I came back in through the doors, the players were at center court sitting in a circle with the 3 4th graders playing Duck, Duck, Goose. So I went home to my wife that night and I said, Dr. Lighty was right. So, again, we appreciate all of your support, and we hope to continue to do great things for you. These 3 guys will do great things in their careers as well. You have a future doctor here, construction site manager, and a young man who's going to George Washington University and had a perfect score in his ACT. So thanks for having us tonight. We hope you guys have a great night, and thanks to you also, Seth. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Get out of your way. I appreciate the time tonight. Thanks.
Looks like we have most of the team yet.
Could I just point something out? Mrs. Morgan, and Miss Morgan has made a point the last couple of times, we don't have guys at this level, and so I just want to point out that we have the guys team as well as the swimmer, so.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you for pointing that out, and I was thrilled to see that the majority of them are sophomores yet, so they'll be around for another 2 years. Better things.
You're aware.
Mr. Panic, before you step away, I've done this for a few years now, and over the years, you know, we've kind of debated who do you bring in front of the board, right? And at one point we said, well, let's make sure that they had a really good season. Well, how do you define a really good season? So we set a pretty high bar. We said that you need to perform at a state competition level in order to come in front of the board. Next season, we may have to do this over a couple meetings if you keep leading this athletic department the way you've done. And congratulations on that.
When I write these, I often write the first, and those are kind of by the wayside anymore. It's not the first anymore, so it's just consistency, I guess we'll call it.
Great things are happening around the athletics, and thanks to your leadership.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Mr. Pan. So the second item, speaking of incredible leadership, Ms. Holly Loffer is here with Mr. Nate McWilliams representing the Wildcat Foundation. And as you know, on an annual basis, we are very fortunate to have a community organization that provides wonderful grants to our staff and to our students and allows us to do things beyond what the taxpayers do in this district, takes us to another level. And Holly's going to present those to us.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for this opportunity. Thanks to the Wildcat Foundation Board of Directors, currently led by Nathan McWilliams, who had a really tough meeting on March 21st. when they had $118,000 in grant requests. We had in total 36 grant applications submitted using a new online grant application process. As is our practice, those grant applications were first reviewed by school principals and athletic directors, and then by the superintendent. So they had the opportunity to say, you know, maybe this really falls within the school budget, not within the Wildcat Foundation budget. So when they weeded through those, it came down to 29 viable grant requests. In addition to that, there are 11 programs that are approved to receive funding through the Department of Community and Economic Development's Educational Improvement Tax Credit Program. In the end, over half of our board members deliberated for about 2.5 hours and approved funding of $89,498. We present those to the school board. I believe in your packet is an outline of those grants that the Wildcat Foundation is recommending for funding for the 2023-2024 academic year. Thank you.
Questions for Holly? Holly, I would like to, on behalf of the board, is thank you for your years of service to the foundation. I wish you the best in your retirement. I don't want to put you on the spot. I mean, you've done so much and you're so well, and you've done a great job. And it's time to move on and retire. So
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. So
Yeah, I think.
thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate
We'll miss you.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. You stole my thunder a little bit. and grab it a little bit and thank Holly in front of the board as well for her years of service. It's unbelievable the amount that happens in the background. The board members maybe get the face of it or some of the credit, but really it goes to Holly, who we would not be functioning if it wasn't for her. She's taken us from where we were before to the next step. We're ready to move on to hopefully a bigger and brighter future, and that foundation is built from Holly, and we really appreciate everything she's done for us. She's done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
When Nathan speaks, I often say to him, he took the words right out of my mouth. There's nothing else for me to say. And so I would just say ditto and let it go at that. Thank you, Holly. And thank you, Nathan, and to the Wildcat Foundation for supporting what our teachers would like to do and to go out and be innovative and try some things and do some risk taking. And the foundation and the work of the foundation allows that to happen. So thank you and the entire foundation for that.
There's an online grant application now. I'm very excited to hear that.
Yeah, we used Google Forms.
Nice.
Careful what you ask for, because it works. Yeah, very good. And last, but obviously not least this evening, is our Kindergarten Academy. As the board knows, each month we've been recognizing a different building in the district. And tonight, Kristen Sachs is here as the principal of the Kindergarten Academy to share with you some information about KinderCat Chats.
Hi, everyone. All right. So as an expression of gratitude for all that you do for our students and our entire school community, I'm excited to share with you a special part of the Kindergarten Academy, KinderCat Chats. It's through our KinderCat Chats that we foster a sense of community and belonging at the KA. One second. So what you just heard is the song that we play to let students know that KinderCat Chat is about to begin. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, what is a KinderCat chat and why do we have them? KinderCat chats have been a long-standing part of the Kindergarten Academy, and although the topics may change because we tailor them to the needs of our school community, the purpose remains the same. KinderCat chats are a time for us to come together as a school community to learn important skills that help us to be our best selves. At the Kindergarten Academy, we pride ourselves on being bucket fillers. And for those of you that came last year to the tour around the Kindergarten Academy, we talk about how everybody has this imaginary bucket that sits on their shoulder, and when they fill someone else's bucket, it helps to fill their bucket too. So our first KinderCat chat focuses on what it means to be a bucket filler. This year, we linked bucket filling to our Wildcat Way, communicating with respect, which is the C, achieving personal goals, which is our A, tackling challenges, which is our T, and serving others, which is our S. We learned that when we fill someone else's bucket, it fills our bucket too. So once we learned about being a bucket filler during KinderCat chats, we incorporate the bucket filler pledge into our morning announcements each and every day. It goes, I'm a bucket filler each and every day, kind things I do, kind things I say, and then we ask the question, how will you fill a bucket today? This is one way we set the stage for a day filled with communicating with respect, achieving those personal goals of ours, tackling challenges, and serving others. Throughout the year, we meet twice a month coming together to learn and grow. A favorite KinderCat chat is one that focuses on celebrating diversity. Through this KinderCat chat, we learn that we are all special and that every single one of us has something valuable to contribute to our school community. Now, as we all know, our kindergartners are very capable learners, but we also want to honor the fact that the work that they do can be challenging. Mr. Weber and Mr. Herbine, along with the friends from the Giraffe and the Ice Cream class, teach all of the kindergartners about tackling challenges. Now, we also like to do chants and songs to help them remember. And so Mr. Herbine and Mr. Weber, along with their kiddos, came up with a chant. It goes, I can tackle challenges, I will try my very best, I am growing, this I know, challenges will help me glow. And so it's really cool to see the kids around the building when they are encountering a challenge to either chant that or for the teacher to give them a reminder of that chant that we had learned. Just like understanding that some things are a challenge, we find that teaching our youngest learners about the power of yet is important. Our kindergartners are so excited to learn how to read, write, and solve problems in math. And if they struggle, we want them to realize that some things take more time to learn and lots of hard work. Miss Desco and Mrs. Menarch and the Star and Elephant classes teach our KA kids that it's not always easy, but if you keep trying, you will succeed. Miss Schaefer, Miss Fidelli, and the Sunshine and Rainbow classes teach the KA about the beauty of making mistakes. At the KA, we look at mistakes as a learning opportunity. Whether a mistake is made when we are solving a problem, sounding out a word, or playing on the playground and maybe we accidentally bump into someone, mistakes are something that we learn and grow from. Self-control. Navigating parts of the school environment independently takes a lot of self-control, especially when you're just learning the expectations. Although independence is earned gradually throughout the school year, Mrs. McGaw and the Panda class teach the other kindergartners about being in control of themselves even when no one's watching. They made up a fun song to help us remember that goes, and I'm not going to sing it, but I will say it. Self-control is the way every day. Self-control is the way every day. I think about what is right. I'm in control day and night. Self-control is the way every day. Our students encounter different problems throughout the day. A friend might accidentally bump into them, cut in line, or they might trip and fall on the playground. For many of our students, these problems all seem big, but through this KinderCat chat, they learned that many of the problems that they encounter are just a little problem that can be solved by taking a deep breath and using their words. During KinderCat Chats, we focus on teaching our students strategies that are helpful both in school and outside of school. Mrs. Sinclair, Mrs. Goldsboro, and the Frog and Puppy classes teach us about the importance of being kind. Friends from the Frog and Puppy class show us that we demonstrate kindness when we raise our hand, when we say please and thank you, or when we wave to a friend in the hallway. At the KA, we know that providing a hook always helps our students remember the focus of the lesson, so the Puppy and Frog classes used a catchy chant to help us remember. It says, I can choose to be kind each and every day. I can choose to be kind to everyone in every way. And then they reminded the kids that we need to keep the kind in kindergarten. So, as we get closer to the end of the year, we still have more to learn to help us be our best selves. Our next KinderCat Chat will focus on empathy, learning how it is to stand in somebody else's shoes. We will also have other KinderCat Chats that focus on optimism and gratitude. We hold KinderCat Chats from 7:50 in the morning until about 8:15 twice a month, and would welcome you to visit to see our whole school participate in these meaningful community meetings. As you can see, KinderCat Chats are a fun and engaging way for our students to learn from each other about how to be their best selves. So, thank you.
You know, as you're going through that, Mrs. Sachs, I'm thinking that's great for kindergartners and maybe even some adults too that can benefit from that, right?
Absolutely.
I know in life I learned in kindergarten.
I hate to interrupt, I was literally thinking, and this is the thing, it's like, you're talking about kindergarten, but I would love if your leadership team could come into the hospital and teach all this to my anesthesia department. That would be, like, literally, this is the stuff. Well, I can't teach it this way. So I would love for you guys to come in and
All
teach
you have to
it.
do is sing those chants.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
I can email them to you if you want.
Well, the bucket, I'm actually gonna use that one.
There's a lot of books out there that talk about being a bucket
Yeah,
filler.
I like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
That concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Leidy. Move on to Capital Area Intermediate Unit, Mr. Bradley.
Yes, during the March meeting at the Capital Area Intermediate Unit, they talked about staff growth. And one of the routes or new opportunities that they're working on is paraprofessionals, and having the ability for paraprofessionals to move into other opportunities, whether it be management type opportunities, leadership type opportunities, or even moving into a teaching opportunity. So they're creating these additional tasks that as people come on board at the IU as paraprofessionals, they'll work with them to develop that path, that curriculum, that opportunity for them to grow. As we highlighted athletes, they highlighted a teacher. One of the IU teachers at Loysville is also the West Perry School District wrestling coach. And he took 6 wrestlers to the state championship. So it was just their opportunity to demonstrate that their teachers do more than just in the classroom. They also get out into the community and work with the community and work with students. They're doing a lot of work as far as the infrastructure is concerned. If you have not been by the intermediate unit recently, just like in many other areas, there is a lot of building going on. And so their infrastructure has had to change a little bit because of the additional building that's going on around them, as well as their own building, as well as that house. And I had the name of the house that they moved. It was a historical house that they actually moved. And as a result of moving that, it created more need for them to do infrastructure such as sewer and water lines and everything. Something for Mr. Longwell, the HR department is going through 2 things at the same time. They're going through they have a new compensation policy management system that they're bringing on, a little bit different from what we have from the PSBA. And then they're also looking at bringing in a whole new HR system that'll deal with recruiting, onboarding, payroll, benefits, time, attendance. I guess there is a little too much paperwork or paper movement going on as opposed to having it electronic, so they're looking to introduce that. And the head of the payroll is anxious about the fact that they're both hitting in the month of July, so they're both going to come in at about the same time. And then the last thing that they talked about, and something that we all are exposed to, whether it's in our personal lives, professional lives, business lives, is just that they're continuing to work with cybersecurity and continuing to look at the cybersecurity and the attacks that are going on, and building the right infrastructure to catch and prevent the cybersecurity attacks that go on. And as we all know, that's an ongoing battle. And then we will be meeting in a couple of weeks for our April meeting.
Questions for Mr. Bradley? Thank you for your report, Mr. Bradley. 3.03, Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technical Center report, Mr. Sanker.
Thank you. The JOC has not met since our last board meeting, but we've been doing some work in between meetings in anticipation of a construction project being approved at some point, where they sent out bid requests for a construction manager. And as chair of the Building and Grounds Committee, I get to be a part of that review process that next week. Looking at those. Fun. Yeah. They didn't tell me when I was made vice chair that I was chair of all of the committees. I didn't understand that part. So, yeah, right. So that's happening. We've been doing some other work just kind of in between over email, but the next JOC meeting will be April 24th. I do attend.
Good. Any questions for Mr. Sanker? Thank you, Mr. Sanker. PSBA legislative report. I just like to report that in the last month, Dr. Leidy and I have attended out at the PSBA to a school safety initiative that they're starting, and I'll report out further as that progresses. We learn things on that. And at that time, I actually talked to Nathan Maines very briefly, and I asked him why they went to a virtual advocacy day this year, and just our disappointment in it that I thought was much more effective, when we met live. And my understanding, what he said was, with the chaos in the House because of the leadership, they didn't know who the leaders were and put everything behind until they went through those other runoff elections and things like that. So their executive board felt it was more important to get something scheduled on time and just do it virtually, as opposed to waiting until they knew who to schedule it with and then maybe get pushed off the calendar. But they are planning on going back to a live advocacy day next year, so, which is, in my opinion, so much better. And that's all I have for the PSBA report. Any questions? Finance and Facilities Committee report, Mr. Sanker.
The committee also did not meet in between board meetings, but we have a number of items on the agenda tonight that we've reviewed in workshop.
The board president report. I like an announcement of an executive session held on March 28th, 2023 at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel matters. An announcement of an executive session held on April 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel matters. Move on to item 4, new business, athletics, recreation. Item 4.01, Dr. Lebo.
I'd like to request the board to approve the 2023 recreation staff and summer salaries for payroll and audit purposes.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 6, new business, budget and finance. Item 6.01, treasurer's report. Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the treasurer's report as per the attachments, which include the following. Number 1 is the treasurer's report for March 2023. 2 is the board budget report through March 2023. 3, general fund invoices paid check number 65639 through 65786 in the amount of $550,869.79. Number 4 is the electronic payments in the amount of $8,341.62. 5 is the general fund invoices payable check number 65787 through 65805 in the amount of $478,639.84. 6 is the Series AA of 2020 Construction Fund invoices paid, check number 259 through 263 in the amount of $1,225,682.75. 7 is the Series of 2020 Construction Fund invoices paid, check number 256 in the amount of $4,334.53. 8 is the Student Activity Agency Funds Quarterly Report, and lastly is the investment portfolio.
Do we have a second on the treasury report?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
6.02, Mr. Burkhardt.
I ask the board to approve the 2023-2024 proposed final general fund budget, making it available for public inspection as presented in the attachment.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Only to thank Mr. Longwell and his staff for the presentation that we received and the amount of work that went into putting this together to this point. Thank you, Mr. Sanger.
Further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 6.03, Mr. Burkhardt.
I ask the board to approve the 2023-2024 capital area intermediate unit operating budget as per the attachment.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
6.04, Mr. Burkhardt.
I ask the board to accept the Wildcat Foundation grants as presented in the attachment.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that it's so impressive, what this organization does for our community. We're blessed to have this organization and people who are willing to put the time in and do this. It's truly amazing.
I'm just going to say the same thing. I mean, just the way it engages the entire community, it's just, across all lines.
And the professionalism for which they conduct their organization it's a testament to.
Absolutely. Any further comments, questions, grants from the foundation? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 8, new business, facilities. Item 8.01, Mr. Sanger.
I make a motion to approve the roof recode project for Upper Allen Elementary as submitted by Houck in the amount of $462,600.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 8.02, Mr. Sanger.
I make a motion to approve the replacement dishwasher at Mechanicsburg Middle School as submitted by 11400 Food Service Equipment in the amount of $155,985, which includes $6,000 for demolition and removal of existing equipment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 8.03, Mr. Sanger.
I make a motion to authorize the release of bids for the swimming pool project at Mechanicsburg Area Senior High School.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 9, new business, personnel. Item 9.01, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the personnel report as per the attachments.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the personnel report?
I was
Comments?
just going to say we're gaining 3 great principals. Assistant principals.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm super impressed with the candidates that come before this board. Every single time we have openings, they're second to none. And it's a testament to, I guess us as a board, the administrative staff and the school district as a whole. The three candidates that we are having come in at these upper level positions are ridiculously qualified, if that's professional enough, but, and I've had personal contact with at least one of them, and my sons love them, and I'm just thrilled.
I guess if I'm shouting out people, Mr. Bitts and also Mrs. Haldeman and then the HR team for putting together the process that I got to be a part of, which was real cool, but just the amount of work that's involved in coordinating all that and running it really well. Awesome job.
I'd like to thank you for serving on that and as the board member that one meeting. And to me, it's very important that every board member, if they can, gets into one of those, because it really is very nice to see how the process works and that the whole committee team approach and the input from, including the staff in the buildings that we're hiring the positions for. I think that came out in the interviews we did with the candidates tonight, how impressed they were with that process that Mr. Hood and Dr. Leidy had developed many years ago. Mr. Pitts perfected over the years. All the staff members. All right, any further comments on the personnel report? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 9.02, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to approve PSBA's recommended salary ranges for support staff and administrators.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further comments on it? Dr. Lay, we had a question from a member of the audience. Just real quick, the process that we use, do you have any comment you'd like to make on that, just to clarify how we go about this and why?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are constantly evaluating is, can we bring in the kind of candidates that you just approved in the previous vote? And are we able to compete with other school districts in the area? And so the Pennsylvania School Boards Association offers a service to school districts in which they look at your job descriptions. They evaluate from those job descriptions where the position should fall in ranges, depending on several different factors that they measure, from how many people are they supervising to the difficulty of the decision, the complexity of the decisions that they're making, et cetera. Those are a few examples. So they make sure that they're in the right categories. Then they go out and they compare those salaries to like school districts in the region, in our area, and develop what we call minimum, midpoint, and maximums for those salaries. And that's what forms the ranges. They recommend that the school board look at this every 3 to 5 years, and believe it or not, it's been almost 5 years since we looked at it the last time, and everyone knows what has happened to salaries over that period of time. So at this point in the process, we're asking the board to adopt the ranges that PSBA has recommended through that salary study.
And I'd also like to say that, as we know, at this point in the process, we do so blindly that at no point is any individual person that's affected by it brought up by name or position. We're merely looking at the general ranges of the various groups of people that the study covers. And then, if approved, the administration would move forward then and then request adjustments of current employees and where they would fall, or new employees, where they would fall within those new ranges. So it's more fair that way, that there's no personal, we don't personally look at it, based on who the person might be. It's either just the general position.
Just for clarity, I know when we hire individuals and get their salaries known on the personnel report, when do the salary ranges become public, or do they?
Yeah, so we can make the salary ranges public. That's not an issue at all. We can post those at any point. And any individual impacted by this, we will bring their name and their salary back to the board for approval, and that will be in the personnel report. This says May. I would ask some indulgence from the board that it may go until June. We have some conversations to have with some folks, and that may take a little bit longer. But as far as this vote, there's no names attached to this. This is about the ranges.
And I don't honestly remember the last time if we waited till it was the names released, or if we just did are you asking that we do that?
Right, because it's administrative content, I get it, that the
At this
public
point,
can't see it,
right.
so when would it be public content?
Yeah, I mean, we can make it as soon as tomorrow.
So as soon as if we voted through, I would say it become public content and knowledge at that point.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
I am a no.
We have one no, that was Mr. Hartman. Item 10, new business policy. Item 10.01, Dr. Rhodes.
I make a motion to approve the second and final reading of revised board policy 221, dress code, as per the attachment.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Okay, Tracy, go ahead.
No, I just want to say I appreciate the administration going back and doing some research and making a little tweaks to the wording.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Mr. Brown?
And I just want to reiterate my reservations about the changes in the policy. I do go back to the aspect of hats and hoods and the respect of removing a hat and removing a hood when you're in a classroom, when you're in certain settings, when you're in certain environments. I do not want to diminish the work that this committee did to put it together, the efforts that they put together to put a policy together. It was, I was comfortable with the policy as it was being presented to us, but I do not support the policy as it has been revised. And again, the reason is not to say we shouldn't change the policy that was put in place 20 years ago, but I think removing, in my opinion, removing that level of respect of requiring hats off, requiring hoods down, when you're in a classroom, when you have a teacher in front of you. That is that sign of respect that I think we are taking out of the classroom by not continuing to make that part of our policy. And so when it comes up, the reason for me voting no is because I feel that element of respect has been taken out of the policy.
And although not required, I certainly appreciate your explaining your position and why you appear that you're not going to support it. It's the correct thing to do. Any further discussion or comments on it? Mr. Longwell?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
No.
I am also a no.
Move on to item 12, hearing of visitors. We have reached the second opportunity for public comment. This opportunity is reserved for comments on issues not listed on the agenda and not being voted upon this evening. As a reminder, public comment is limited to residents of the school district. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and requires community members to observe a reasonable decorum. If you'd like to address the board, please come up to the podium and share your name and district address. This is for items that were not on the agenda tonight. Seeing none, item 13, Ms. Morgan.
Make a motion to adjourn.
There's a second. Second. Meeting is adjourned.